Hey everybody, welcome back to my journaling series slash class slash journal with me, having fun doing whatever, making weird art thing. This is Pockets. We write about prompts like this one. This was our prompt for today. What web am I spinning? We write about the prompts. We go through and parse out the elements of it that feel important and that are speaking to our soul at that specific moment. And then we make fun ephemera to put into our pockets of our pocket journal. So I made this little creative cycle card that says make art, empty self, listen, and write. The card itself that I made originally is not small enough to fit within my pocket journal, so I decided to transcribe it onto a smaller card that I had made. But essentially, making art is a way that I get emotions out and I process things and I work through the experiences of being human. And so after I make art, I feel very level, grounded, clear-headed, and it really gives me that emptiness so that I have the spaciousness within me to listen to what it is that I want to say as a writer. And so I keep trying to divide myself into two parts where I'm a writer and I'm an artist. I'm a writer, I'm an artist. And it makes me feel like I have to choose, and coming up with this creative cycle and understanding how my process works, how my web is spun to help me in my creative life is really helpful. And I wanted to share it because, number one, it's definitely going in this journal. But number two, I thought that it might apply to other people. The empty self part feels particularly important. As you guys know, I'm kind of an interfaith, eclectic, spiritual person who practices witchcraft, but also is a contemplative Christian. I kind of am all over the spectrum when it comes to my spiritual beliefs. But one of the things that I learned from contemplative Christianity that was one of the more memorable things is that we empty ourselves out for God. We make space within ourselves so that we can open our eyes and see God all around us, which I think it's a core tenet of my spiritual beliefs. That part of non-duality, that everything and nothing is God, and everything in the universe and all the space in between everything in the universe is God. That's not really the important part, though. I knew that I wanted to include this, and when after I made this card, I wrote my journaling page, and I kind of listed out the different elements of my creative practice that feed into itself. If you've been around for a long time, you know that I started as a crochet artist. I taught myself how to crochet in 2019 when I was on bed rest. And so it was one of the first things on my list. I used to sell items. I don't really do that anymore unless I make something that I decide that I'm not going to use or wear. But it is still one of my favorite ways to unwind. I have found that I need to choose projects that make sense to me and that I can do while watching something or listening to something. That's why I tend to go with crochet over knitting. I can also knit. It's just not what I'm interested in doing most of the time. I don't have the patience. My hands hurt when I try to knit with needles that are too small. This is just a lot easier. So I have, if you can see at the top of the screen, I have these little O-rings. I'm crocheting a little mini granny square to include. But I have these little mini O-rings, and I'm going to use one, and we're going to create a little keychain type zine to put in the pocket of our pocket journal. And kind of the thought process behind it is the little keychain things of paint chips that you can get at the hardware store, and you flip through and you can look at all the different things. That's kind of the idea behind this. I fast forwarded through the crochet part because I am not somebody you want teaching you how to crochet. Like, I'm more than happy to help if you have questions. But I mostly do things in the way that they work, and I don't necessarily follow all of the quote unquote crochet rules, if that even exists. I don't know. So here I had some pink glittery tulle fabric ribbon, and I cut off a little piece. And I'm just going to tie it into a bow to put on here as like a fun little embellishment. And because I love the color pink, I've slowly been like reclaiming my relationship with it, as well as the color blue. I used to be a kid who, like, my favorite color was lime green for the longest time. And I just picked the color. I wanted to pick like a weird color because I felt like a weird kid. And back in the early 90s, it just didn't feel like you weren't fun or cool as a girl if you liked pink, at least in my experience. And so I just kind of like pushed all of that, like, quote unquote, like traditional, like what you would call girly stuff from back then, away. And so I'm sliding on the bow, and then the granny square, I'm just using one of the corners to slide that onto the little O-ring so that I can work on my next piece. I'm using this little thing. It's not an awl, but it does kind of the same thing, and I got it from the hardware store. Now, let me just tell you, this would be far easier with a hole punch. You're probably sitting there wondering, why didn't she get a hole punch to do this? That'd be so easier. So much easier. I have a hole punch that, number one, doesn't punch holes big enough for these O-rings, because I've tried before. Number two, I've lost my hole punch, at least the single one and the 3-hole punch. I've moved workspaces quite a few times, and here I've realized that if I'm trying to make a big enough hole for it, that I am going to need some to make it sturdier. So handy dandy duct tape to the rescue, not duct tape, packing tape to the rescue. Courtesy of Megan and the Moon, I will probably always shout her out simply because that's the reason that I originally got packing tape in the first place, and I'm in love with it. I have a laminator. I haven't used it that much yet, just because I often don't have enough time to like do all of that and record videos and do all the things I need to do to share these fun processes with you guys. I'm also just somebody, I have ADHD, so I want to get it done fast. So here I am. I'm making sure that I can stab through with this with the packing tape over it, and I can. The hole's still not getting any bigger, and I'm getting frustrated. And so I think once I trim around the edges, I think I have a realization that I can just make little string loops with the leftover yarn and have that slide on the O-ring that way, and it'll be easy to thread it through the size hole that I'm able to make, and it'll make the whole process easier. You can just watch me struggle with it for a minute, and it really is a lesson in just messing around with things and figuring things out and learning that it's all about the process, especially if you're making fun stuff. It's not going to turn out the way that you envision it to, especially if, like me, you work quickly, and especially like when inspiration strikes, like it's a frenzy of materials and movement, and I get in the zone and I'm just go, 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 go. Like I want to get it done. And that's kind of the whole point of process artwork, is getting into that headspace and really enjoying yourself. So I didn't cut this part out so that you guys could see, like, there is a lot of struggle that happens as I kind of go through and figure out exactly how I want things to be and want things to look. But I do think that we have to be gentle with ourselves because, number one, like a project like this is for ourselves, right? And number two, if we start critiquing the fun little things we make for our art journals, then it's just giving us more ammunition and giving our inner critic more strength to come at us when we are working on other stuff. So don't listen to the inner critic. Do things how you want to do them. Experiment, mess around, and if you don't like the way something turns out, you can always do it again. There's no rules, remember? This is another section that I sped up for you guys, and I'm not going to voice over for the whole thing because it's really just a process of creating something that represents me being in the kitchen and taking pride in housework and learning how to cook. And it is part of the web that I'm spinning. I am learning. I was raised to believe that feminism meant getting out into the workforce and that I was a really smart young woman, so I had to go do big things. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that message. But I do think that there is kind of a way that domestic work gets undervalued because of that. At least it did in my mind. It was kind of like that all or nothing thinking that we fall into when we're kids, that if we don't explore our inner landscape and actually get to know ourselves better and get to know the world better, then we don't realize that things are more complex than that. So one of the things that's within the web that I'm spinning is embracing my role as a stay-at-home mom. It is definitely not where I thought I would find myself. It is something that I've kind of had like a lot of inner resistance to, and I'm trying to work through that. One of the things, if you remember, I had a video going through a journal where I explored the prospect of having like a restaurant/coffee house. And I think one of the things that capitalism conditions us to believe is that we are only as worthy as the occupation that we pursue, which makes a lot of sense and goes along with the fact that, we don't pay domestic workers. We don't pay stay-at-home moms. We don't really refer to it as work. We all talk about how stay-at-home moms are so amazing and are so strong and do all this stuff for their kids and everything, but we allow them to feel isolated, and I don't want to say accept, but we don't work very hard to keep them feeling included within society. It is very lonely being a stay-at-home mom, especially like in my circumstances. I am sober. I live in a very small town. I don't have any friends really that I can call and just hang out with. And then on top of that, like even if I did have someone to call, like your schedule's constantly booked. You're constantly managing the whereabouts and, driving and drop-offs and all that stuff for other people. So it's difficult to feel like your own person. So I think that's why art and writing has been such an important outlet for me. I think that's why crochet, when I first learned how to crochet, was such an important outlet for me. But I've also found that because of capitalism and this idea that I needed to be like a working woman is like in my subconscious almost, I kept trying to monetize the things that I was doing. And I want to be a paid writer and a paid teacher. I would love to be able to make enough money to be comfortable, but times are difficult right now for everyone. And so I am sharing my gifts as best as I can for free for the people that could use them. And I think that that is kind of helping me to heal the part of myself that feels like I have to always be earning money. That was a huge little rant about capitalism and my thoughts about being a stay-at-home mom, but that's kind of what this whole project is about. So I'm trying to draw like a little still life kitchen scene. I'm doing it kind of like by memory. I love looking at still lifes, and the one thing I will say is I'm not entirely happy with how this turned out. I wish I would have chose different, I wish that I would have chose a blank paper instead of a pre-painted paper when I started it. I wish that I would have not used water-based markers when I was drawing the food on the table. But I go over it with my new Caran d'Ache Neo colors. I got a bigger set of them. And I'm kind of happy with how it turned out. But I will say that it has inspired me to try to make a larger piece similar to this. And so I think that's another interesting thing that can come from this project, is that it inspires us to explore other creative avenues and other things that we wouldn't maybe wouldn't find time to explore otherwise. I'm using the same tarot deck this time, Tarot for All Ages. The envelope that this pocket is made from is actually smaller than the first one we worked in. So you saw me kind of making sure that it was going to fit width-wise, and it is. So I am going to go ahead and shuffle and pull a card. And I'm just doing this intuitively. It's similar to how I do readings. This is the Seven of Pentacles. I really like the way that this looks, and I like the fact that it came up with this particular prompt. What web am I spinning? And think about the fact that I'm making all of these cards and all of these little things to put on this O-ring that all have to do with my inner web and who I am and what I'm creating for myself and the inner landscape I'm building for myself. And I think that speaks to a lot as far as how it goes with it. Yeah, seeds have been planted and hard work is about to provide results, I think is one of the things that actually stood out to me from the book part. But really it was just this idea that like we do a lot of, as creatives, we do a lot of little things. I find myself working on little projects here and there. Sometimes I'm not even satisfied with how it turned out. Things like never look how they look in my inner mind or my vision when I first start out. And then it'll be like 6 months or even a year later, and then I find myself using the thing that I made for some other project, or it feeds into like a piece that I'm writing, or it feeds the inspiration for something different. It just, all of it is interconnected, and you just have to show up. I really believe that if you show up and you do the thing, that, all of the pieces will fall into place. You'll get into the creative mindset. You will find your flow state. Pieces will start to add up, and creativity begets creativity. And that has been a big lesson for me and is definitely a part of the web that I am spinning. I'm really intrigued also by the fact that I got the Ten of Hearts, which is reminiscent to me of the Ten of Pentacles. Very grounding energy, but also overflowing with abundance and with kind of setting the scene for a life where you have everything that you need. I am using this card to display one of my stickers that says Eat the Rich. I designed it myself, and I have them in my Ko-Fi shop. I also include them in Happy Mail orders. But it felt appropriate to put it here because I've come such a long way. And one of the things that I originally set out to do was design my own stickers. And I have had 4 sticker designs made, an abstract art piece, two collage poems, and then this illustration, Eat the Rich, I also had made into a sticker. And I didn't think that I would get to that point several times. You know, you get into your own head, you listen to the inner critic, and then you find yourself thinking that you're never going to accomplish any of the goals that you set for yourself. And so this is a celebration of something, and also a demonstration of one of my core values. Let's make sure that everybody in our society has enough. Here I'm using my Caran d'Ache Neo colors again. I folded up the journaling page that I made for this prompt, and I'm drawing just a little nature scene of the daffodils that are blooming in the front of my house right now. Just as a reminder of staying present, and nature was on my list of the web that I'm spinning. A lot of my poetry is based on observations that I make when I am walking the dog out in nature and just appreciating the outdoors. And so I think that having a representation of this was really important. On the back of the tarot card and on the back of the playing card, I'm just writing out the ideas I have for our next prompts. They'll be listed below, but they are, where is there goodness around me? How do I contribute to it? Have I learned to sit with discomfort? What from my childhood helped to define care, community, and care? Think about those questions. There's a few prompts here, and they will potentially be 1 or 2 pockets. It's really however you feel called, and it's really dependent on what comes up. I do think community and care are 2 words that I'm going to want to make cards with like definitions and go into the etymology of the words, just to get a better understanding of this thing that are kind of buzzwords that we always talk about, but that I don't think we, especially in the West, in the US, I don't think that we have a great understanding of it. I know I didn't grow up with a super good understanding of it. Anyways, the final thing that I'm including is this zine from Femme Supremacy. They make the cutest zines, and this one is the spell that is all about stepping into your authentic self-expression, and I just love it so much. I read it all the time. I'm still working up the courage to get some more colorful clothes and to dress in like the fun ways that I dream about dressing, and this zine is definitely motivation. I will leave a link to their Etsy shop below, but I definitely wanted to include that here because that is part. Fashion has always been a big thing for me, and this idea of building my self-confidence is definitely a part of the web that I am spinning. So this is the little O-ring zine that I made for our pocket journal. I love how it turned out. The strings definitely make it messy. It doesn't always lay in the same exact order. And now it's time to put it in our pocket. I'm glad that I made sure before this that everything would fit. I did struggle at first to get it into the pocket. I actually had to work it in there a little bit, but I do have a lot to stuff into the pocket. And I like that the little crochet granny square and the little tulle bow is going to hang off as an embellishment. I was just going to color with my Neo colors here, but then I realized I do have a place for my other sticker, the collage sticker that I still have available in my Ko-Fi. I don't have many ones of this left, but it's just a little found poetry collage sticker, and yeah, I decided to put that here because it really ties into the celebration of how well-rounded I have become and all of the ways that I've grown. Here you can see me struggle with peeling a sticker. The struggle is real. It is literally something that is always a problem for me. No, I cannot use the little sticker tweezers. And then I'm just going to add some fun little colors around the edges. And that is it for my pocket journal, the second entry of it for what web am I spinning. I am really happy with how this turned out. I think it is a fun way to express ourselves. And I think that ultimately it's just going to lead to a really cool finished product when this zine is all full and chunky and has all this stuff hanging out and poking out the sides and poking out the top. So I would love to see what you guys are making. Feel free to tag me at Starmoth Creates on Instagram, or, let me know what you're doing on Substack. All right, have a great day. Bye.